All right, we are back in Maya. Let's add some details and start using some new modeling tools on our building. Now, on the first floor here, let's give it an awning to just separate the bottom floor from the rest of the building. So the first tool we're going to use is called the Insert Edge Loop tool. And it's going to be underneath Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. I'm just going to click that. It says click drag on edges. And when I zoom in, I have this awesome ability to select one of the edges, and you can see it gives me the option to insert a new edge loop anywhere I want. That's that green line. It's just kind of a guide saying where my edge loop is going to be dropped. So I think right about here looks good. And now I'm going to come back and hit my selection tool just so that we're out of the insert edge loop tool. And I'm going to select the faces right here. So I'm going to select one, hold shift, double click the face next to it, just to select all the faces around. Awesome. Now I am going to show you the next tool that we're going to be using in this model, and that's the extrude tool. But before I do it on our structure here, I am going to show you what the extrude tool looks like on a basic cube. So I'm going to bring this out, lift this up, and let's take a look at this. Now, the extrude tool is something you can do to extrude or add extrusions to faces. So if I go to face mode and I select a face, and I can either go up to edit mesh extrude right here, or the extrude tool is right here on the poly modeling shelf. It doesn't matter which one. I prefer to use the edit mesh extrude right here. And what that did is it actually is allowing me to pull out this face, and it's extruding it. It's adding edges all the way around, and it is lengthening this face right here. And think of it as a telescope. What is that doing? It's just pulling out, or it's opening like a telescope and adding length to our face. Just adding extrusions. So that's the extrude tool. I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm going to delete this. And let's extrude on our structure here to pull out an awning. So once again, all the faces are selected. Let's go to edit mesh, extrude. Now we can either pull it out manually, or we can use the thickness in this little widget right here to make an even extrusion all the way around. And I think I'm going to prefer to use the thickness. So let's just click and drag it a bit. And let's see, let's do 0.4 thickness. And if you can see, it's made a really clean, uniform extrusion all the way around. All those faces look really nice. Awesome. Let's do object mode. And let's save this version of our building right now. I'm going to go up to File, Increment, and Save. All right, next step, let's add some windows. So I'm going to go back to face mode, and I'm going to select every other window like this on every side. Now I could just keep going, selecting, but that's a little tedious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click away, and I'm going to go to front mode, and I'm actually going to use my little drag. I'm going to click and drag like this to select. I'm going to hold shift, select, select, select. Now, why am I doing that? Because, select that. It's actually selecting every one of these little faces on this side, but it's also selecting the ones on the other side of the building as well. And you can tell because if we go into perspective, this side is selected and the back side is selected as well. So we can do that to the front. We can also do that to the sides. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to hold shift, click and drag every other face. And that should be selecting the faces on either side. I'm going to exit out, go back to perspective. Let's see, everything selected? Yes, it is. Awesome. Now, let's extrude these windows. So let's go up to Edit Mesh, Extrude, and let's push it in to make some indentions for these windows. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to grab the Z-axis right here, and I'm just going to push these in just a bit to add some depth. That looks good. I'm going to go to Object Mode. All right, we got some windows. Now, it is important to know when you're making an extrusion, bring this out here, and I'm going to illustrate with a cube again. Go to Face Mode. I'm going to go right here. When I go up to Edit Mesh, Extrude, and I haven't done anything yet, and I click away, so I deselect that extrusion, you can't tell, but that is actually just still sitting there. I've still extruded a face, and it's sitting on the face, the original face beneath it. You can't tell, and that could be a problem because if you're going and you're trying to texture this thing and everything is looking wonky, that's because you have these stacked faces, which you don't want to do. And I can actually show that to you right here. See? There's extrusion was still here. It was just stacked on top. And that happens when you make an extrusion and you accidentally click away and you don't realize that that extrusion is still sitting there. So if I was to show again, if I was to actually extrude a couple times on top of each other, that could really mess it up because now you have extrusions on top of extrusions on top of extrusions. And you can't really see, but they're all stacked in this original spot. So be really careful. When you make an extrusion, do not click away so it's deselected and try to select it again. What you should actually be doing is just undoing until you get back to a point where you haven't made an extrusion yet. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. We have our windows. Let's increment and save. There we go. Now let's add a door to the front here. This is my front right here. And this is going to be kind of tricky because I want to have a wide door, but I have an uneven number of faces on the front, and I actually just want 4 faces on the front instead of 5. So let's learn about a new tool called the Merge tool. I'm going to go to the vertex selection, and I'm going to select the vertices of this one face in the middle. So this one, I'm going to hold Shift. This one, let's see, Shift, this one, Shift, this one. So I should have all 4 vertices selected. Looks good. I'm going to come up to, let's see, Edit Mesh here, and I'm going to select Merge. Now, you can't tell yet, but we have this little widget open, and I'm going to change the distance, the threshold to about, let's see, I'm going to go really slow and carefully, 0.21. So if you can see here, though those vertices merged into 1 on either end. So instead of having 2 and 2, we have 1 in the middle, 2 and 2 down here, we have 1 in the middle, and this edge is now merged as well. So that's a really handy tool if you want to be merging faces. And now I'm going to hit Object Mode. Now, we do have, unfortunately, this triangle right here and this triangle down here. And in the long run, it's not going to be too big of an issue with having triangles instead of quads. So I'm just going to leave this one right here because it's not going to cause much issues. But down here, let's just delete the entire bottom because we don't really need it anyway. We're not going to be texturing it. It's not going to be visible. So I'm going to go to front mode. I'm going to select all the faces down here. And I'm going to hold Control and select just these faces up here so that these ones are still selected down below, but these ones up here are not. I'm just going to hit Delete. All right. So that got rid of all the faces down below. And now we have our hollow building. We don't need to worry about that because it's not going to be visible. And I'm going to go to object mode. Okay, so now we are going to extrude and scale these faces right here to create a window. Or I'm sorry, a door. So I am going to go back to face, and I think there's a truck outside that's making noise. Sorry about that. I'm going to select these two faces here. I'm going to go up to Edit Mesh, Extrude. Now, before doing anything and before clicking away, I'm going to hit R on my keyboard and enter Scale Mode. And I'm going to grab from the bottom here, and I'm going to scale this extruded face down to right about there. Now I'm going to hit W, move this down like so. I think that's a good size door right there. Now I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, Extrude again, and this time I'm going to push it in so that we have a nice little indent here. That looks good. Object mode. All right, so by extruding once or twice and scaling and pushing in, we have this nice little door right here. Let's increment and save. Increment and save. Okay, so we have our awning, we have our windows, and we have our little door. Let's add a roof. Now with the roof, we're going to make about 3 extrusions in total. So I'm going to select these faces on top by going to front mode and selecting, dragging and selecting everything on top, holding Control and deselecting these ones right here. So that means that just these ones on top will be selected. Let's go up to Edit Mesh, Extrude, and let's lift this up to right about there. So we can either do it manually by lifting it, or we can use the local translate Z right in the widget here by putting in a number. Let's try 0, 2. That works. I like that. Actually, let's do 0.4. There, that's a little better. All right, so that was our first extrusion. Let's now grab the faces along the lip here. So I'm going to click away, and I'm going to come here. I'm going to select one face, hold Shift, double click. So all of those are selected. Let's make our second extrusion. Let's go to Edit Mesh, Extrude. And we could either pull it out manually, or we can do the offset here and just input it to about, oh, not the offset. Let's actually go to the thickness, and let's change that to 0.2. See what that looks like. That looks good. Okay, so that extruded all of these faces just a bit, and it gave it a nice little lip around the top of the building. Okay, now I'm going to click away, and now I'm going to select the middle face right here. And I actually want to select all of these faces, but it's going to be kind of a pain to try to select them one by one. So I'm just going to select the middle one here, and I'm going to hold Shift and period on my keyboard. And what that does is it grows the selection. So I hit it once, and now I'm going to hit it again. There we go. So now it's selected all the surrounding faces, and that's just from holding Shift and hitting period on the keyboard. So now let's scale these faces down. R, and scale down to right about there. Okay, that looks good. Now let's extrude for the third and last time. Edit Mesh, Extrude. And let's push this in to right about there. Looks good. So we kind of created this nice little flat surface at the top. Think of it as like the roof of this little skyscraper or apartment. And it looks really nice. Let's increment and save right about there. Okay, so we've technically finished our model here. We have our door, we have our windows, we have our roof. But I think it's important to talk a little bit about the history of this polygon and how you can go back to previous steps and make more changes to it. So if we go over to inputs here, where we have the history, it shows everything that we did to this original cube. We deleted edges, we added edge loops, we extruded some faces, we merged some vertices, we deleted some faces, extruded, tweaked, extrude. So that's the importance of inputs is it shows you the history that you've made to one polygon. And the awesome thing is you can actually go back and change some of the inputs that you made. So if I was to hit W on my keyboard, I selected extrude face 2 and I hit, or I'm sorry, not W, T on my keyboard, I can go back and change that original extrusion. So if I wanted to push that in a little further or drag it out, I can. If I wanted to make some changes to the roof here, I could go to one of the last extrusions that I made in the inputs. And I can set the offset a little bit so that we have this nice little slant to the roof. So I'm going to hit offset and I'm going to offset it by, let's see, I'm going to offset it by 0.1. So now if you look, we have this nice little slant that wasn't there before just by setting the offset to 0.1. All right, object mode. There we go. So inputs, the history, that's the awesome thing about it is you can go back and you can change any of the original changes you made a little further. Now, the last thing I want to do, because we are finished with our building, is instead of incrementing and saving, I want to go up to File and I want to hit Save Scene As. Now, you can see all my previous increments that I saved, but for this one, because this is my finished version of the building, I'm actually going to delete this right here and I'm going to put in finished. Just so that I know that this save is the one that has the finished building. And I'm going to hit save as. All right. So we learned a teeny bit about some of the tools that Maya has, such as extruding, inserting edge loops, and merging some vertices. And those are very useful tools that you'll be using in some of our future projects.